Alright, what's up guys? My name is Zach and today I am driving a 1998 Dodge Neon. Up front is a 2.0 liter inline 4 and down below is a 5-speed manual transmission.
This video is sponsored by CarMarshal.com. If you'd like to support the channel, click the link down in the description below. CarMarshal.com advertises for over 100,000 vehicles across the US.
But let's get back to that 2.0 liter inline 4. Well, it's really the only engine we got here in America. There's a slightly different 2.0 liter that was put into the higher trim levels like the RT and the ACR. And overseas they got a 1.8 liter, but for the most part, this little 2.0 is what we got. And honestly, it's a spry little 2.0. It's kind of zippy, it's kind of fun to drive, and actually gets good gas mileage. Of course, a car like this will, of course, get good gas mileage, but I want to really make a good solid point about the fact of how just zippy and fun it is to shift gears in this thing. So it's kind of rev happy, although I don't really have a tachometer, not really 100% sure what it revs to, but it really feels like a 90s Honda Civic, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on. At least that's my own personal opinion. Like I said, paired to it is a 5-speed manual transmission. Now, this is a really nice feature because it's not a auto tragic. It's not a 90s horrible automatic transmission that makes me want to hate myself. It's a tried and true 5-speed. Shift feels pretty good. For an American car, great. In terms of all cars ever, again, a lot of comparisons to Honda. I like Honda shifters a little bit better, but for the money, for the year, for the condition, this feels great. And the clutch grabs decently low down. It is a newer clutch. This is not the original clutch in the car. And there's not too much pedal travel, which makes it really easy, like here in traffic, just to kind of light foot go between gears, stuff like that. And last but not least, of course, the Neon is front-wheel drive. So let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, I have 3 main gauges. On the far left is my fuel. Then in the center, I do get my speedometer, very typical Dodge here. And then on the right, I have a coolant gauge. The coolant and fuel are very large. I mean, a very high emphasis on these 2 gauges. And of course, we have the odometer down below. Now, on the steering wheel, I don't actually have any buttons, no cruise control, nothing like that. But of course, it is the 90s pillowy style airbag that you'll find in a lot of cars like this. It's nothing too special. And that is a wheel cover on the steering wheel. So that is not the stock outside portion, I guess, of the steering wheel. I don't really review too many cars that have a steering wheel cover, but this does. One thing behind the steering wheel is that the turn signal feels very plasticky. And of course, well, it is made of plastic. It's a very plastic piece, and it's a cheap plastic piece. To the left of me, I just have a dimmer switch, and then on the door, I have the window crank, the door handle, and of course the door card. Very basic. And the basic continues as we go into the center. I have a rear defrost button just kind of hanging out next to the vents out in the middle of nowhere. Then I have my climate controls, again, very basic. We do have temperature, we do actually have AC. And then of course a radio that has since been changed out because every 90s radio is absolute garbage. Ashtray, cigarette lighter, coin holder, and the shifter. The shifter looks really tall because there is no real center console, but it doesn't feel tall. Like when I'm looking forward and I'm reaching over, I don't feel like I'm shifting this very tall truck shifter. It feels very natural, and honestly, the throw isn't too bad. Maybe it would benefit from a short throw shifter if that's what you're into, but honestly, I don't really mind it too much. Now, we gotta talk about the seats. The seats are nice and comfortable. They are fabric, they are cloth. What I really like about them is that they mirror the seats that I used to have in my 1998 Dodge Ram way back in the day, and I'm gonna reference that truck actually a lot because there's a lot of similarities between those products, such as a cracked dashboard. But they are really comfortable. 90s American cars did a couple things really well, and comfort certainly is one of them. This is actually a pretty comfortable car. I say as I'm shaking and bouncing around, these roads are horrible, but actual in terms of comfort, these are nice. Essentially what I'm saying is if you were to make these Dodge Neon seats into a bench, it would be a comfortable bench. Now, we do have back seats, so we will get out and do a back seat review. You guys know I hate coupes because they're never easy to get into. Handle here? Sure, okay. Okay, now that I'm in the back, there's so much room back here. I don't know what that rattling and creaking is. And a push pin just fell out of the ceiling. But tons and tons and tons of room back here. My knees don't even touch the front seat, and this is my driving position. I mean, really, so much room. I'm very, very, very impressed. Although I think I might die, I'm very impressed with the amount of space back here. Tons of room. You can carry 4 people. It's probably going to hurt the performance quite a bit, and the suspension might sag quite a bit, but you could fit 4 people pretty comfortably. So that is very, very nice. Now we got to talk about the looks. Now, you have to take into account that this car has seen a lot of Midwestern winters, and what that means is really just lots and 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 lots of piles of salt. But also, Dodge products from the 90s rust really easily. And so, if you live in a state that's in the rust belt, finding a clean one of these is very hard to find. It's like finding a unicorn. So, if you're planning on buying one and you're wondering where the rust spots tend to be, here's your example. But I don't know why. I love the look of this Neon. I don't know why. I literally cannot explain it. There are some things that I like in this world. I don't know why, but I just think this works really, really well. I think the overall look of this little Neon, I think it just all kind of comes together and works. I like the tiny little headlights. I like the coupe. They did make a 4-door version, but I like the coupe. I like the taillights. It's simple. It's small. And I don't know. I really don't know. But what this leads me to think is that this is really the American EG Honda Civic in my eyes. It's light, it's fun just to shift gears and bang around, and they were cheap. That's another talking point I want to bring up, is that originally these were sold for about $9,000 to $10,000. I think you could spec them up to about $12,000 back in 1998 here in the US, which, adjusted for inflation, is about $15,000 to $16,000 today. Okay, this still is a cheap car. This is a cheap car. But let's take into account the car that I drove yesterday, the review that came out yesterday, which was a 2020 Kia Rio. Those start here in 2020 for $15,000. And so while the prices are the same, and yeah, the Kia Rio has Apple CarPlay now and a couple other nice features, I think I would much rather have this. Respective of their time periods, this was a lot more fun. And that is why I think this is the last true great American economy car. Because this is so fun to drive. It's so fun to rev it out and bang it through the gears. And that came at such a low price. The owner picked this car up a year ago for under $1,000. It's been reliable. It's gotten good gas mileage, and modern cars will do that, but I don't know if they'll be as fun. This is the last fun economy car from America. Because you could buy a modern Honda Civic and have fun all day. That's a modern, fun economy car. But the US just doesn't do that anymore. And it's not because there's a lack of manuals, although there is, and it's not because of engines. I recently reviewed a 2012 Chevy Cruze, 1.4-liter turbo with a 5-speed manual, might have been a 6-speed. I think it was a 6-speed manual, but still, manual transmission, 1.4-liter turbo. But that car wasn't that fun. I even raved in that review that they should have made a fun version of that car, and they didn't. This, in its basic, standard format, the cheapest option you could go, this was an economy car that was just plain fun. These things are fun. And really, what I find most interesting is the fact that this car has been on this planet for 22 years. And through that time, it has gained a lot of rust. It has lost a lot of value. It has been almost nearly forgotten. But its original purpose hasn't changed. Like, let's take, for instance, my 98 Dodge Ram. When it first came out, it was a pretty expensive truck. Not out of this world, but it was a decently expensive truck. It was a nice truck for the time. It had, a lot of good features. But now, here in 2020, that same truck is a beater with a heater. It's your cheapest option. It's rusty. It works most of the time. It can haul some stuff. Its original intent of a nice luxury truck has now been demoted to a cheap beater with a heater. But this was always a cheap beater with a heater. This set the standard low, and so 22 years later, it's still doing the same thing. And I gotta give it credit for that. It started life as a cheap, fun car, and it is ending its life as a cheap, fun car. I love that. I love this thing. I really, really want one of these now, just to kind of toss around. If I'm ever in a bind and need a car for $1,000, I might be hitting up David. Speaking of which, thank you, David, so much for letting me take out your 1998 Dodge Neon. This thing is really fun. It's really fun just to bang around, put through the gears, and not care about. So thank you so much for opening my eyes to the first generation Dodge Neon. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.
Aside from my soul.